And we're live.
Oh,
Sweet.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to FilmHub, where we talk about why Batman's a murdering psychopath, right?
well, we'll see. We'll wait for some people to trickle in, but in the meantime, we'll discuss why we feel the need to talk about this again. Because basically what happened, because I didn't get the full story. Was there like a Snyder like Comic-Con thing or something on? Or like, does anyone know what the context of that is?
It was a Q&A, right?
Zach was making like a grand reappearance, so he was going at the art center, I think where he went to college, I'm not sure, but he was showing the director's cuts of Dawn of the Dead, Watchmen, Batman v Superman, I think, is what he was showing. And they streamed the whole thing on Vero, which is like he's campaigning for that filmmaking social network thing. And he said some controversial things over the course of those 3 days, I think it was, including that if you think Batman's not a killer, you should, quote, wake the fuck up. End
yes.
And there's a bunch of other comments within that, but that was the one certainly that was picked up by headlines and, talked about on talk shows, on like even news sites, like not just the comic book geek news sites, but actual like major publications.
News sites. Yeah. I'm surprised that's the one that got picked up, because he said, I watched it. I watched like the stream, and he said a lot of stuff.
So anything else on top of that quote, like anything else that gave context, anything else that you could add that was from that stream? Because
I think he was tipsy. I think that has to be clear. I think that it was like that's what I heard from everyone there was like, oh yeah, he was just like yelling about it because he was a little bit tipsy there. And then he said at the end of it that people are going to misquote him, if I remember correctly, about it, and it's going to be a headline, and he called it. It is a headline.
Yeah. And on some level, it's like filmmakers can think what they can want about their films. Some people think that's like, oh, if a filmmaker makes a bad film, we should all tell them it's bad. But sometimes you have to give it to them, right? Like a filmmaker may be proud of their film, regardless of what the public thinks. I'm totally for that. But I think the implications of his quote are like, ooh, oh boy.
Well, I think that's the thing. First of all, like was saying, like, oh, headlines are going to take this out of context. Which, yes, immediately they largely did. I want to point that out first. You've also got the fact that he was talking for a very long time continuously, and you're bound to say something that's going to come off wrong if you're talking for probably longer than 5 minutes. So I think, there's probably the way that he has said this has not helped. But I think that, there was probably a lot more context that we've missed, especially if he was talking for a number of hours, or there was a panel that went for any length of time longer than just the 5 or 6 lines of quotation that we got.
I think why it's getting so picked up by news outlets and everything, as opposed to, because he said all this before. Like he said, like obviously is Batman's a murderer in the movie. Like that's not debatable. And there haven't been many headlines about that, other than this great video called "Batman Does Not Kill" that you guys.
One of the best videos actually.
But I think it's because of the way in which he said it. If you watch the clip where he's like, "Come on, you're living in a fucking dream world," that it triggered a lot, not just fans like me and fans like us and fans in general, but it triggered comic book writers. Like you saw Batman writers tweeting like, little gifs of them going like that and stuff, and like all this stuff, because, acting like Batman is a killer, which was kind of what the statement was, what it seemed like the way he said it, like, oh, of course Batman's a fucking killer. Wake up if you think your heroes are innocent. Just with the kind of like snide attitude about it. And I'm sure there's context, is what triggered people this time, as opposed to countless other times.
Okay, so with that basic context out of the way, let's kind of go through then. Obviously, Alex's stance on this is pretty clear, but we might as well just go over.
We have Bailey on the extreme one side. Alex is the other. I'm kind of
no. That's not it at all. Mine's way more complex than that. So basically, if we want to get Alex, just for people who want to hear him say it again, Alex has a very firm stance on this.
He's doing.
Let me. Just Batman does not kill, ever. It's stupid when he does. It's fucking it just takes away from the character, man. If you can't tell a story about a Batman who's not a killer, then you shouldn't be telling a Batman story. And that's my whole thing about that. If that's what you're going to do, if that's the thing you want to do, is make him not just the Nolan killing where it's incidentally, it's like, oh, he runs over a car. Because in those movies, Chris Nolan tells you that Batman's not a killer. If you want to go out there and make Batman like, oh, he's beating people, he's murdering people, he doesn't get a single fuck, he's going to run over fucking 40 goons, he's going to pull out his Gatling guns, then you just should be telling a different story. Make another movie about a vigilante, make a Punisher movie. But what makes Batman special to so many goddamn people is that he's not a murderer. He has this code. You know, he's a good fucking person. And that's and to take that away and then act like, oh, come on, man, just rubs me so the wrong way. Like I should wake up from my dream world. Yeah, Zach, you know, because someone else talk. I'll just
and I do think there's some quote legitimacy to the whole like, and I think you mentioned this in your Batman '89 video. It's like he kills in all the Burton movies, in rather like kind of careless ways. In the action scenes, it's sort of like if you go into the details and you break down the physics of it all, it's like, yeah, someone clearly died there. Someone clearly died there. If you want to go into like the movie nitpicking analysis, which can be fun. That can be a lot of fun. Whether that's legitimate or not, it varies. But you can do that for a lot of the Batman films. Now, Snyder's is a level above that. The amount of destruction in Batman v Superman caused by Batman is
it's visceral violence versus like, oh, it's stylized action sequences. It's like he wants you to notice the fact that Batman's murdering people. Whereas Nolan, I see people complain about the ninja scene in Batman Begins where he burns down the Ra's al Ghul temple. But also right before that scene, the whole reason he burns it down is because he doesn't want to kill that guy.
And it's that dramatization of character making a choice not to kill that matters.
Yeah, of the scene. It's not about the ninja that's going to get blasted backwards.
Well, it's basically... It's not Batman going up and actually setting fire to each of them. Like in BVS, he obviously sticks the knife in the guy to finish him off. So that's a very, very different, I guess, thing. Do you have anything else to say about your stance on that, John?
I think more like if you want to have a Batman that does kill or is broken to the point of killing, I think that's great. But the point is that with these comic book films and these superheroes, the reason why so many people are drawn to them, they're mythic, they're larger than life, and they have very clear morals that they stick to. The minute you're not thinking about those morals, you don't really have a story. And to say like the reason why you have the Batman does not kill is that when you implement that into his stories, it makes them more interesting. You know, it's another foil to go up against his own conscience. It's his own morals, right? He's always fighting a battle with himself.
Batman's always man versus self, pretty much.
And if you don't have that element, and if rather you replace it with something else, or at that point, is that a different character? Like, is that Watchmen, right? And I've always had that feeling that BVS is a failed second Watchmen, if that ever makes sense.
That makes perfect sense.
Of a
I haven't seen Watchmen, and I do need to, but yes.
Yeah, it's a sort of and I like Watchmen, but the Watchmen works because of creative liberties and a stronger understanding of its characters. Whereas BVS, I don't know what the characters are, and it's because it's like, oh, they didn't have morals. Oh, okay, that's it. It's not too hard to figure out because Snyder wasn't thinking. And even like when he has that change of heart, when he goes from having that big hulking metal armor and trying to kill Superman, and then he's redeemed and he takes that armor off as like, I get to be the proper Batman.
Then he still murders people.
And he still murders people, and that's the problem.
And then you listen to, because I fucking watched the whole stream of the second day when he's talking about BVS, and his plan was to go make a Justice League movie that was the dream sequence from BVS, where Batman's carrying a gun, Superman's burning people in half, and it's just right there. That guy should not be making a Batman or Superman movie. He can do whatever he wants. He can tell whatever story. That's his right as a filmmaker, right? But at the end of the day, no matter what way you look at it, no matter how complex these things are, Batman and Superman are meant for kids as well, okay? No kid's going to want to watch Superman burn people in half.
I feel like this is where I jump in, right?
Oh, yeah, go
for it.
I feel this is where I jump in. So I'm of the belief that Batman does not kill. Fundamental to his character, Batman has one defining rule, and that rule is that he will not be reduced to the level of the criminals he fights by taking their life. right? And that obviously makes for most of his conflicts. The entire of The Dark Knight would be a very different story if Batman could just kill the Joker, right? Most Batman stories come down to that. They're very different if he's able to kill. Now, the thing with BVS is that you can reinterpret characters, right? And I think the idea of having a Batman that kills and learns that that is not okay, has to reteach himself that that is not okay, I think that's a really great idea. The problem is that I think Chris Terrio wrote a script about that. If you look at any single kill in BVS, that would not have been there on a script level.
Dude,
I don't see a single one of those kills being there on a script level. This Batman could kill, right? It would have been clear in the script that that's the case. And what I feel Zack has done is that he's taken liberties with that to push the action. So, you know, there's the part where, you know, he rocks up in the Batmobile and just fucking blasts his way through like every vehicle there. And I'm like,
fast fives it at like a wrecking ball and just carries it for blocks. And
he blows up a car and then he runs through the blown up car just to make sure he finished the damn job.
And that's the thing, is what I see in BVS, because obviously I've come around to really enjoy that movie now, and I'm hoping to discuss that and this at further length in a video coming up at some point this year. But I think that the idea there to have a Batman where you see him kill on screen, right? Let's say there's a kill on screen that happens. But I feel like for the story that Chris Terrio was telling in the BVS script, our response as viewers should have been, oh, fuck, Batman's just killed. Yeah. Whereas Zack has directed it like, fuck yeah, Batman killed.
Yep.
I think that's the issue. I think there's an incredibly interesting story to be told about a Batman who kills, who comes back from that. But I think much like the main issues with BVS, the issues with BVS through and through that most people have more than anything, more than absolutely anything, is how much it contradicts itself over ideas over and over and over. In the same scene, it can have two opposing ideas. And I think that's where the issue is. I think Batman can kill if the story is about him killing being bad. Now, yes, that is the case with BVS. Yes, that is what they are trying to tell. But I think Zack's direction is at odds with that. So I believe that Batman should not kill, but I think you can explore that. It's just a case of like, that's got to be the question. You know, if a Spider-Man movie suddenly had Peter with the option to save someone and he chose to walk away, I'm pretty sure that movie is going to make that decision the entire basis of the character and focus on that and changing that. Whereas I don't think BVS does that. I think it glorifies the killing, and that's where the problem lies.
2 points on top of that. One is that I
think can you hear him?
Did John just cut out?
I think he cut out, man.
John, you're gonna start again. That just cut out.
Okay. So I'll repeat myself. I follow a lot of games criticism, and one of the terms that gets passed around a lot is ludonarrative dissonance, which is the idea that when a game's mechanics don't line up with the game's story.
Yes.
And I feel like BVS is very much when an action filmmaker is on a completely different page than the screenwriter. And that's how you get a completely controversial, divisive movie.
Well, how
two audience members are getting two different messages because they're based off of what they look for, right? And exactly, yeah. If you the instinct is fuck yeah, Batman's killing, that's just inherently wrong to the character, and that so much of the audience is like, we demand to be taken seriously. Fuck yeah, Batman kills, and that is problematic. That is
just like in the script. Where would he kill? Because I have the same theory as you, Bailey, that Chris Terrio's script was the Bat brand, where he gives people the brand, and then they get murdered in prison, was the extent of how he's killing people in the script, is what it seems like. That's it. Like, that's the extent of how what his codes become.
I don't see it as, I don't even see like the Batwing destroys a convoy of vehicles with people inside. I don't see Batman slams Thug's head into the wall.
No, neither
leaving
do I.
A streak of blood. I don't. Knowing Zack and understanding the way he makes films and the way, as I said, I've really grown to love his style and his approach. And I don't think there's anyone making movies quite like him. And I appreciate him filling that space. But I just think knowing the way that he operates, he made those choices. And I don't know, that says, and I think it's an entirely possible option, knowing that the oversight of Warner Brothers management of these films, that the conversation between the scriptwriter and director may never have been there.
Oh, you know
what I mean?
On the stream, he explains the Martha moment, and how he explains is Chris Terrio came to him with the idea that that's how you end the fight, because the fun fact that they have the same name, and Zach interpreted that as, oh, that's dope, quote unquote. Yeah. So I really think that a lot of it's Terrio has a lot of really complex, big themes he wants to tell, and I'm not quite sure if Snyder's on the same page as those themes, to word it like that. If you catch,
imagine if the Russos got in the Civil War script and they're like, "Oh, Bucky killed Iron Man's. Oh, that's neat. Oh, that's gonna," like, if that was their reaction, like, "Oh, we can have fun with this," and as opposed to, "What's the drama here? How do we play this? How do we maximize it for the conflict?" Right? And that feels lost.
And that being said, I've seen a lot of very interesting takes about people trying to defend, people wanting to defend BVS and Batman killing, and saying, oh, and this is what I guess we've already said, like in the Arkham games, Batman kill, and I'm like, it's a fucking game. It's a game. If the rule of the character that has been spoken in the text is that Batman does not kill, and the creators have gone out of their way to show that, like, oh, okay, if you run over someone with the Batmobile, it just gives them an electric shock and they get bounced away. Like, logically, we know that person's dead, but it's a fucking game. And the same thing applies. They're like, oh, Iron Man kills. And I'm like, Iron Man's fucking rule isn't based around not killing. Yeah, it's probably why I have a stronger attachment to Spider-Man and Batman, because they don't kill.
Yeah, because they have morals. But it's just, I don't know, man. As soon as you released Man of Steel upon the world, and the person who wrote Superman for years, Mark Waid, right, walked out and covered his daughter's eyes when fucking he snapped the neck of Zod, right? And that's Snyder's choice. He can make that choice. It's his right as a filmmaker to make that choice, that Superman's going to snap Zod's neck. But as soon as there was such backlash to that, I don't get why they let him make another movie.
And not only that, like, he doubled down on everything controversial.
I know. He went, which I have to respect, because he just hit fuck it and went even.
Part of me is like, there is some legitimacy to that criticism, that in every superhero movie, there's a lot of collateral damage. Like, how many people die in Age of Ultron and just brushed off, right? That's a legitimate criticism.
Bring back civilian stakes. We need civilian stakes back in our superhero movie.
But or how in the Arkham games that just the physicality is so extreme that, like, he's killing dudes. That's a legit criticism. If you want to go into the angle, fine. The problem is that Zack Snyder's films are so fucking indulgent in their action. They are those plus times a million. The level of indulgent, and I say the word indulgent action. You watch the destruction of Man of Steel, and it's unfounded. I've never seen
anything like it in Man of Steel. At the point that Superman throws an oil tanker at Zod, and Zod just jumps over it and levels the building behind them. I was like,
it's like, why do you want to give 9/11 flashbacks in a Superman movie? Like, why do you want to do that?
That being said, the opening scene of BVS with Metropolis being absolutely leveled, I fucking love that scene.
No, I think that's I like that scene too, because you show Bruce Wayne rescuing people, and I'm like, oh, look, it's a hero. And then the whole fucking movie, he's murdering people, branding people, and it's just who am I supposed to be attached to in that movie?
And there's also there's a whole other can of worms, and just that Batman v Superman is so narratively confusing. Like, people forget how muddled that movie is. Like, the nightmare scene is just the cherry on top of its, like, profoundly disconnected narrative. Nothing connects. There's not that causality between scenes. There's not that this happens, therefore that happens. It's just a lot of filler and then weak resolutions.
And then I just feel like so much of his beloved, like, his fans are allowed to love him. I'm talking about the angry cult fans that show up on every fucking Twitter post. And they're like, oh, you just don't understand his vision. Like, I'm going to say this right now live. Fuck you. I understand his vision. We all understand his fucking vision, okay?
We just don't like it.
We just don't like it. It's that simple. He offended thousands, millions of people because he just doesn't give a fuck about showing these heroes at their core values, okay? I don't care if there was a 5 fucking movie arc to get Superman to act like Superman. You should never, if you have the privilege of directing a Superman movie, you should never fucking make him snap someone's neck and destroy a city and then expect people to like your films.
Or more important, like that moment would have kind of worked if the rest of the film showed him trying to save people and failing. If that was the focus of those action scenes, if everything about that Zod fight was like Superman was trying to de-escalate and Zod just kept escalating the scenario,
which is what happens with
at the
most
very end.
fights
You get the
Raimi's
tail end.
Spider-Man.
You get that tail end of like the family, but that should have been the entire fight. That should have been the entire fucking movie. Is Superman trying to de-escalate and Zod escalating, and you get to that point where he has to make a decision. It may have pissed some fans off, but at least it would have been supported by the text. At least it would have been drama.
I think that's what we keep coming back to, is it not being supported by the text?
Yeah.
Is that the idea
doesn't support his own argument.
Yeah.
Stories
are arguments at the end of the day. They are essays.
And why people are freaking out about this quote, this dream world shit, is because he's acting like, oh, I don't need to support my argument. That's what it seems. I don't know what he meant by saying that. He could have meant something.
I think he just...
I get it, because he'd be fucking fed up by now.
Of course.
I get it from his perspective. He's just like, fuck, I made this movie I'm really proud of. I'm really happy that people are supportive, supportive. I get that you just be exhausted, I got to wonder, he's been at it for a lot longer than I guess Rian Johnson has with The Last Jedi, but I feel like at some point Rian Johnson's probably going to fucking snap as well. How much punishment can a filmmaker take over just making a movie that they wanted to make? Yeah. You know what I mean? When you're making a movie, you don't know that this shit's not going to pan out. You're just confident with what you're making. You're like, yeah, we're going to get it done. We're going to get it made. And then it's up to the people out there.
Yeah.
But I feel like
it's just the fact that I don't think it's surprising that people respond so negatively and there's so much hate thrown at him. Like, you're kind of asking for it when you have a 10-minute sequence with Batman with a machine gun and Superman with Nazi imagery. Like, you're asking for people to not like your work.
Or interpret it differently.
That being said, though, I think there is, like, obviously, again, there's a line, and I think the people who are mad at Zach, there's a lot of people crossing that line. I've actually seen stuff thrown around about, like, this is why your daughter died and shit. And I'm like, where?
No, that's
like, what is wrong with you?
No, like, I am probably the person in this chat who hates Zach the most, but that's fucked up. Never do that shit. No. Like, do not attack him as a fucking, like, person, his family life, okay? You can attack his work.
Or more importantly, like, we're all Batman fans. You have an Arkham poster behind you and all that stuff. Like, as fans, it's fine if a movie doesn't work for you. They may have, there's different types of Batman fans. I'm able to accept that Snyder's version there weren't the ones for me, and I had to wait for Wonder Woman. I'm fine waiting. If you're only gonna bitch about the movies that weren't made for you, that's a net negative on the film community. You have to be like. There are other movies that hold Batman's values in a better way, or that take those cues from those Batman stories and they make their own stories. You have to be looking for them because you won't always find them in the next iteration of Batman. And I think that's the important point.
Matt Reeves, just please, just don't make him a killer. I just beg you, Matt. Please.
I think there's also a degree of just in general, like, okay, give a movie like 2 years of shitting on it if you want, but then after that, like, why have people not gone back to like talking about the Batman stories they love? Like, why do people still feel the need every time BVS pops up to say something or mention something?
Well,
I think it's hard when things aren't in the cultural eye, and it's hard for like the three of us because it's our job to talk about this stuff, and engage in it, and people like us talking about it, and that's why we're doing it right now. But there's just like,
to be fair, he was asking for it when he said that quote for people to start talking about it again. That is like
for sure. That's why we're talking about it against is brought up. I'm just saying in general, like the hate trains run for so long for things, and I can't imagine people getting up and they're like, "Well, I mentioned this like 4 times yesterday, but I'm going to mention it a couple more times today." It's like, what? Do you not have other stuff that you actually like to talk about or something? Like, fuck me.
I think we need a good Batman movie, and then people will stop talking about it. Like if Matt Reeves comes out,
we've had good Batman movies. That's why I don't guess like why people like, just go back to those.
11 years ago, we had a groundbreaking, genre-defining Batman movie.
I meant just like a new one for the culture to move towards that one where it's like, oh yeah, Matt Reeves' Batman's fucking great, man. Instead of like, oh, the last Batman we got was a fucking, that.
Yeah.
And I feel like I feel like it's all about what's in right now. And right now, what's still in is Batman v Superman, which you have to give Snyder props for because he made a movie that's still talked about today. Even if it's talked about through hatred, it's still talked about.
I remember covering the box office when that was happening. Batman v Superman has an all-time weird box office run. If anyone watched it, it opened huge. We're talking 166 million. Biggest worldwide debut of a superhero film at that time, and it dropped like a rock.
Did Ant-Man make more money than Batman and Superman? Is that true?
No, it wasn't.
No.
What
BVS made 860 or something, I think.
What superhero movie that came out that year made more money that was surprising, because like Batman and Superman should make $1 gazillion.
Suicide Squad made
Aquaman, Captain Marvel.
Okay.
No,
Deadpool.
Deadpool, yeah.
No, Deadpool actually didn't. Worldwide it did, but certainly in US it did. But there's a bunch of films that made more than Batman v
Which
Superman.
I think right there is crazy, which means they should have just realized.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 made more than Batman v Superman.
Isn't that insane to say? Like, just a Guardians of the Galaxy film made more money than a film about Batman v Superman. I mean, Batman and Superman.
And that film was more that Justice League completely flopped, and that was purely, or mostly, but
Captain Marvel made more money than Justice League in like a weekend, and that's just insane to me.
But also, like, again, Justice League is the lowest grossing current DC film of that run.
Imagine that being the reality.
Purely because of the fallout of Batman v Superman and the quality of the movie itself. I mean,
flashback to 10-year-old Alex watching the Justice League cartoon, praying that one day this would be on the big screen, never realizing what would come.
That movie feels like a Saturday morning cartoon in not a good way.
Did you guys? That'd be fun. We can chat about that for a second. Did you guys see what he wanted to do in Justice League originally? Did you read all about that?
It was a two-part movie. Like the first part, it was kind of like Infinity War in a way. Like the first part, everything goes
so much to take in.
It was a two-part movie. He wanted to murder Lois Lane and then send them down a dream world where Superman's evil.
Just fuck fridging. Fuck the idea of just killing the girlfriend to motivate the hero. Fuck that. Fuck it.
Well, also that relationship's probably the worst thing about both those movies is Lois Lane and Clark Kent aren't a fucking, like, what is their chemistry? What is their relationship? Dynamic, like all of a sudden they kiss at the end, they kiss during while buildings are fucking exploding in Man of Steel. And then in BVS, they're together in an apartment and they're in love.
Yeah. That's what love looks like.
The foundation of what was going to be Justice League wouldn't have worked. And that's why I'm trying to be like, guys, stop asking for the Snyder cut, because he straight up said at the con that he had to rewrite the script where that happened after BVS. The movie he
made is not the one he
wanted to make.
People won't keep blaming Whedon, but Whedon only had 6 months to do it. Like, he couldn't have, it was a sinking.
At least Whedon tried to make Superman act like the guy that most people know and love.
It has some fun moments because of Whedon. I like the Aquaman moment with the lasso of truth. That is such a clear Whedon moment.
I don't like any of it. It's genuinely my least favorite movie ever.
But it's tried in a good way. But yeah,
I get that, but it's just nothing. I haven't seen a single movie that goes against every single principle of like filmmaking. I can't deny, you probably have some fun moments if you wanted to, but just
from like a fanboy perspective, the idea that he's going to come in, Whedon's going to come in and try to bring what fans like about the characters back into the movies, and it doesn't work. Some of it works, but most of it doesn't work at all. But the fact that
surface is pure, it's not.
There's nothing deep there at all. Yeah. But the fact that he tried to bring us like a happy Superman who's compassionate, the fact he tried to bring a Batman who's not a killer, which just like being in that theater, I was like, thank God someone realized that these characters should not act like the way they did in Batman v Superman.
Too bad they brought in another director to do it in a movie that was half done. Therein lies my hate for it. I'm not saying it's the worst movie I've ever seen, but I hate everything that Justice League is and it stands for. Like it's criminal. To use the fact that the director had to leave because of a family tragedy, because it's 100% what happened. They went, oh fuck. Hell yes, we've got our opportunity. Let's get someone else in to fix it.
Yeah.
And made it worse. Like that is 100% what happened.
Not only that, they hired Joss Whedon to do a different movie that never existed.
It's not the one that And then Zack's had to drag Justice League around as well as the other stuff he's made. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And honestly, I think the bigger problem with all this is that Marvel didn't do a back-to-back movie until their 20th or 19th movie. They had to. Usually, what Marvel does is they do a movie and they'll wait 3 years.
The one time they did back to back was Iron Man 2, right?
Yeah, and they just did it purely because of the success of the first one,
and it didn't pan out too well.
No, so they didn't. One of the weaker movies. And so what happened, like with Marvel, is they do a movie they get a new team where they make sure they get the response, they register it, and they focus on the next project, and they let their movies breathe. They've only done one back-to-back movie, and that's their 19th and 22nd movie. You have to earn that. And when you they went all in, and you can't go all in and then just like backpedal.
Would you guys have? This is a fun little theoretical question. Okay, you're a Warner Brothers exec, both of you. We're all three sitting in a room. Yeah. We see the first cut of Batman v Superman. Okay, do you release the movie?
Yeah, or do you? Yeah, I've got to get my money back. I owe so many people money. That cost me $250 million to make. Fuck yeah, I've got to release it.
Now, do you let him? Now, do you let that guy, the director? Do you let Zach make another movie after you watch that?
No.
Do you wait for the box office, or are you just like, okay, we know this is not gonna?
I think you
click.
Well, but then it's all about public perception, right? Because the minute you see the movie and you delay Justice League, that is a warning call. So you wait for the movie to come out, then you delay Justice League. And but that was a problem that they were supposed to shoot 4 weeks after BVS came out.
Which means they thought BVS was going to be a hit. Which means
if I was that exec, I would not have put those two things back to back like that.
And they shot. Right? The counter argument point of that is that they shot Endgame at the same time as Infinity War. That movie was shot before Infinity War came out because they knew what they were doing. But in a weird way, it's like, should you let them fail? Yes, they let them fail because they're much better for it. They have Wonder Woman, they have Aquaman, which
I'm far more interested in the DC universe than the Marvel universe.
Oh my god,
I'm way more in Marvel.
I just think there's something to be said that as soon as that Snyder vision is gone, Aquaman makes $1 billion, and Shazam, I'm telling you guys, is going to be a hit
purely because it is colorful and weird and
earnest and sincere and
and just wacky. It like that movie is it is someone just trying to have pulpy fun and it's it's like
I don't even like that movie, but like
neither do I. I mean, I can agree with it. Just wish they'd written it better.
Oh my god, that script! I watched it off topic. I watched it the other day with my dad, and the entire time we're just laughing about how every line of dialogue is just telling the audience something. Every fucking single one. Every line is like, okay, this is how this works. This is how it's. So I hate Will Beal publicly saying that. I'm sorry, Will.
No, but like, I look, for me, obviously, I like all of the MCU, but for me, it's just like I'd take BVS. I mean, maybe not so much now that I've kind of come back around on movies like Infinity War and stuff, but like I'd take a BVS any day over a Marvel movie because I still talk about BVS now. And that to me, as a movie with a lot of artistic merit, actually, like that has more worth to me than I guess.
I completely disagree. The Marvel movies. I get like the thing with Marvel is that they do have a lot of meh movies, and I think we all acknowledge that. And for me, I just view it as you have to get through the meh movies to get to the big ones. The only thing with Marvel is that they make them faster, and it's like the quality, the amount of good and bad films is the same. It's the quantity that's different. But for me, like especially in like Phase 3 has been perfect, nearly. Just the amount of great movies, from everything from Civil War, Infinity War, Black Panther, Thor Ragnarok, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Those are 5 incredible comic book films. And there's 8 of them. Like so, Doctor Strange is pretty good, but not on the same level. But 5 out of 8, and you can't top that.
Well, I think for me, like in saying that, like it's probably just the fact that I feel like more stimulated by something like BVS. Like I've really tried to understand. So it's taken a bit of time, but like understanding that that like the Russos are not like loud filmmakers. Like Zack Snyder is obviously a loud filmmaker.
Zack Snyder is such a fucking loud filmmaker. He's
very overt, and it's very like, but it's just a case of like, so it's like learning over time that like it's hard to talk about how good of directors the Russo brothers are because their direction is hiding, like it's hiding the direction, whereas Zack's like fucking look at this. But like at the end of the day, I still think that maybe for me, like I kind of value something like BVS that has so many ups and downs and stuff. And like, look, I'd do anything to get Larry Fong to do cinematography on an MCU movie.
Yeah, no.
BVS is like the best looking fucking.
I see where you're coming from.
But you know what I mean? Like for me, like looking at things above just like not just taking in the story and the writing and how good the storytelling is in the MCU for the most part. But like for me, yeah, something like BVS actually, I don't know, feels like a vision. I feel like that's like way too much of a bold statement to make.
No, that's not.
It's probably inaccurate, but just thinking like I'm still talking about BVS now, and I've already just forgotten what was it? Captain Marvel?
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the weaker ones. And
obviously, but even then, like I don't really talk about.
Hold on, my puppy's having a nightmare. I need to go make sure he's okay.
You're good. Puppy. You're gonna get cute points right now for going and checking on your dog.
Okay. The chat for the puppy.
Yeah, guys, check in the chat. See what people were saying. I've been reading some of them.
All right. How about maybe do some questions in terms of like the
guys, hit us up with those questions.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
No one's gonna ask us questions now.
I just see Ant-Man 2 suck, which is I think that's funny. Edgar Wright could probably make a DC any DC film. I think he was too burnt after Ant-Man. I actually think he's better off in his own corner.
I don't think directors that are known for having bold visions are ever really going to do comic book movies again. I think like those, like we're never going to see.
I mean,
no, Logan, like I don't think we're going to see the Edgar Wrights or the Tarantinos or the Denis Villeneuves pick them up. Like I think we got to look at the people who are more, probably had some critically acclaimed stuff that had a bit of a spice to it.
I mean, it's kind of like it takes a village to make a comic film. It's like for a lot of films, that's very much one person's identity. I think comic films they survive by being an ensemble behind the scenes and in the scenes themselves.
I think James Gunn doing Suicide Squad is what I don't know what we're talking about, but I'm just going to throw that out there. That's going to mark a complete turn. Shazam and Aquaman are like the push. But when Gunn's Suicide Squad and Reeves' Batman, that's what's going to define what the DC brand is.
Yeah. And I guess in saying that, like before with what I was saying, I guess when Nolan first made Batman Begins in The Dark Knight, like he wasn't the Nolan of today. So as much as I think that James Gunn and, Patty Jenkins and all those crew are probably a step below, they've worked their way up to that kind of legend status almost, or they're on their way there. So, like Sam Raimi wasn't already that level of a legend before Spider-Man. So I think we're going to actually start. He was, but still not like, Nolan had done Memento, but he hadn't done Inception. He hadn't done, you know what I mean? So like now, I think directors that have had their big hits probably won't come back, but I think we're going to see a lot of directors come through now. They're going to make iconic movies.
Fincher won't do a comic film. Yeah. You won't get the Fincher. You won't get something like that.
Yeah. I think JJ is going to do Superman. That's my big theory.
Yeah,
I think he's gonna do. I mean, he's been in the Star Wars kind of land for the last 4 years, but I don't know what. Because I know he wanted to do Superman, like All-Star Superman. Was that?
Oh my God, his Superman script minus some weird Kryptonian shit. I swear to God, that franchise would still be running today. He wrote it like in 2003, and then
granted, he revived Star Trek, he revived Mission Impossible, he revived Star Wars. He has a thing for reviving franchises that came from low points.
Yeah, get him on. Get him on for it.
So it'll be interesting to see. Although, of course, Star Wars is a bit more controversial now. We dare say that for three.
The Last Jedi. Said it.
I'm actually getting bored of Star Wars talks.
Yeah, let's stay away from that. Look, I just think in general when I see like people post stuff about like, oh, let's get this director to do MCU movies, and I'm like, can we not?
Yeah.
Can we let directors that are doing like I saw something like Barry Jenkins and I was like, no, let Barry Jenkins do like a big budget fucking sci-fi. Don't give him a Marvel movie where he's got to work in constraints.
He said he wants to do Nick Fury. I mean, if he could do that well, that'd be sweet.
Yeah, I'm always like, give them movies they want to do. Don't be like, oh, I hope Barry Jenkins does. Like, if he wants to do an MCU movie, fuck yeah, I'd be down for a Barry fucking Jenkins MCU movie. Like,
I mean, you hear the story about how James Wan got offered Aquaman. He's like, they said, you want to do Aquaman or you want to do Flash? And he's like, I'd rather do underwater stuff. That was the thought process. That's where it started and ended. Was I want to do underwater stuff.
Oh man, I just can't wait till we I think everyone will stop talking about the Snyder era once Shazam comes out. I swear to God, that movie.
The Snyder fans.
But dude, I can't even. I've just blocked so many. Do you want to chat about the Snyder fans? Because
no, not really. Because I haven't done anything to make them hate me too. Oh, actually, well, I did when I was reviewing movies, but I guess I'm under a different identity now.
You don't want them to come at you.
Yeah. Well, I want to get. When I do my BVS video, I want to see what kind of conversation that generates, because it's such a like. I used to hate the movie and I used to hate Zach, and now the Snyder fans have taught me how to love it somewhat. So I think there's an interesting conversation to be had about that. I don't want to piss them off yet.
It's funny how like for me, I've had just like I think every part. The more you get into a fandom, the more the negative people really define it in a weird way. So like I'm not. People keep talking about bad Spider-Man fans. I don't really have much history with that, but I know bad Star Wars fans, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
And I know that I haven't had much experience with bad DC fans, but I know you, Alex, you clearly.
Oh my God, every day. Just last night, someone was tagging me and shit, like spamming my Twitter account with all this stuff about how I don't understand what he's saying. And I was just like, dude, stop. Just stop. Like, stop pretending to be an intellectual and like speak your own opinions about the films. Don't regurgitate shit you read on a blog, please. Thank you. I'm sorry.
We were talking about that the other day, weren't we? About like how often people just don't even try to dislike. It's cool to absorb opinions that aren't your own and go like, oh, I like that and I want to use that. But so many people make them sound like they've been copied and pasted. Oh, like I love having my opinion change. I love reading something or watching something and going like, oh fuck, I like this opinion. This makes sense to me. I'm going to consume it. And then so many people just like seem to make it be like, just the people with Infinity War at the moment about it.
Dude, apparently I'm blamed. I'm blamed for starting the Homecoming Rebellion because my video, which I didn't even know I was fucking hated.
Viva la resistance.
Yeah, I was fucking hated for that Homecoming video. I had no idea till like 3 days ago that like the bad Spider-Man movie thing, like it's a bad Spider-Man movie, had become such a meme because people don't tag me in this shit. And I think it's so funny.
I just figured you knew about it because I've been seeing it for months.
Dude, I only saw it. Like, I saw a few, but then I searched it, and it's like fucking, there's so many about it. I'm just like, Jesus Christ.
Imagine having that kind of, I've got thumbnail Bailey now, so I've got my own little, I got my own thing. Starting somewhere.
Does anyone in the comments have anything to say about Batman killing or want to ask us anything about Batman killing?
Yeah,
so we can stay on brand for a second, and then
like the brand Batman gives criminals.
Dude, I just can't wait till like we get a fucking accurate, you know, a new version of Batman that's a detective and that's not a murderer and that's like, you know, compassionate, and then I can just shut the fuck up and just talk about why I love the new Batman.
Send this question pop up twice. Should Inarritu direct a Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix? No, that's actually mostly a pretty bad idea. Getting Inarritu to direct a Batman movie is a good idea. A Joker movie.
Nah,
I've talked about this before, but putting the Joker as a protagonist of a story fundamentally defeats the purpose of what the Joker.
Dude, I'm with you, man. I'm totally with you.
That's a conversation for another day.
Such a great solo movie.
Oh man. Okay, but the big thing about that is it's the same thing with Zach. It's like, do filmmakers, they have the right to do that story, but should they do that story? Like, should you make the Joker a protagonist and not a fucking creep who rapes women and murders children?
By making the Joker a protagonist, you have to empathize with him to some capacity. And that defeats the entire purpose of what the Joker is. I'm probably more about the Joker is not a protagonist than Batman does not kill. If you were to put me into which group I'm more passionate about,
dude, make that video, dude. That's a video right there. It's a negative
video. I'm not allowed to.
Here's a question. Like, what are your thoughts on? I know it's fucking cliche at this point, but the Snyder cut. Do you think?
I think it's pointless.
Yeah,
because he never got to shoot the movie he wanted to shoot, and sure, there's probably a cut that he shot that you could piece together and complete. And if WB wants to release that, which they don't, because clearly fucking release the Snyder Cut, boys, take this clip and put it on Twitter. They don't want to release the movie. They want people to forget about that era. They're moving on. It's not going to happen.
And the Snyder Cut as is would have been quote unquote neutered. And what we saw was just a more neutered version of an already neutered film. The only difference is that Snyder had shot it, and he had his distinct visual style, and it's like the same team storyboarded it and had the visual effects stuff up. So I agree that there's probably a cut that looks close. Like you could probably just color grade BVS has and like, you know, and match it or to color grade Justice League to look more like BVS, that's probably what it would have been like. It just be more tone wise. It would have been different story.
That would break my eyeballs if they just.
I feel like people are just like projecting that there's this grand fucking story in the Snyder cut. But first of all, he's admitted that it was going to be part 1 and part 2. So you're not going to get his full story.
No,
it's not going to happen. And it's you can want a director's cut. Like I still want I want Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3 cut, you know, like I want that. And I'm like, okay with people wanting the Snyder cut. But I think that the notion that every fucking time Warner Brothers, DC, Batman, any of these official Twitter handles post anything, there's 50 fucking comments that's like, we demand that you release the Snyder cut. Just there's so much hate.
Any fan that goes, we demand.
Yeah, like, fuck you. You know,
yeah, that's not fandom. And if you know, again, I think the note to end on maybe is that if you're a fan, it's part of being part of a fandom is that you're going to get burned. I don't think any fandom has not been burned at some point.
Yeah.
There's been no completely smooth ride. And if it's too much for you and if like it's too much different than what you want or what you know, there's like maybe it's not your expectations. Maybe it's
Lord of the Rings is a pretty smooth ride. I just want to shout that out.
Not really. Not in the late 2000s or mid 2000s.
Compare the hashtag rehire James Gunn and hashtag we are Groot, which is built out of compassion and support for a director, right? Yeah. And then compare that to release the Snyder Cut, which claims to be out of support. And I'm sure some people are out of support, but one is filled with love and one is filled with, we want to see this man complete his vision. And one is, we fucking demand that after you fucking gave Hack Whedon the fucking movie. And one's just filled with such hatred and such anger. And right there, I think that's what needs to be said about his films and the types of people who are responding so heavily to his films. The fact that they're so angry and so hateful.
Yeah. And that's like, I know like Bailey, you said like you respond more to BVS than to other Marvel films, but like, even though Guardians of the Galaxy may not have as many big moments as BVS, to me, that's just so much more of a vision-driven film that so many people can watch that film and fall in love with it and not project their love onto it. Like BVS to me, it just feels like people project their vision of.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not denying that that's the case. Like as I said, I vehemently like hated BVS. I was like a fucking cancel Zack Snyder, remove him from the movie. I was like that, and now
you're like me.
Yeah,
I've learned and now I've just learned to project. I'm like, if this movie is going to be talked about so fucking much, I should probably try to learn to love it. So yeah, for me, I fully understand that I'm projecting to it.
Yeah,
that's
got it. But
and you're allowed to project to it. Like you're allowed to love it and project to it and do whatever you want, but you're not going to go on Twitter and act like everyone else is stupid for not projecting what you
projected
onto it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
because it's understanding that it comes from somewhere.
Films. But yeah, like, and just kind of like on that weird note with Guardians, like James Gunn being fired and rehired is kind of perfect for that series because that series is all about redemption and assholes learning how to not be assholes and like about them digging their own graves.
Dude, I fucking love those movies. I love those movies so much. They're like,
I didn't, but you guys have kind of taught me how to. Between you guys and movies with Mikey, his video on Guardians 1, I was like, you know what? I love these movies now.
To me, it's like with this is so off topic. I'm gonna make a video about this eventually, maybe soon. Little wink, wink. But to me, it's like here's the MCU, and I love a lot of the MCU. But to me, the Guardians films just like stand above that as their own thing, and that's why I love them so much. I connect.
They're the best part of Infinity War, honestly. For me,
I think so too. As soon as those people show up, it's just so full of life and love, and like, I'm gonna cry talking about how like passionate those movies are. And but. Yeah, more of the story is we're all in a fucking dream world and we need to wake the fuck up and just expect, our heroes aren't innocent.
And Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is a type of movie that ends on a close-up of a CGI raccoon having a profound realization of self-identity. Like, that's the type of movie I want. Not Batman in the quote-unquote real world murdering shit, because that's how it probably would go down if you had a vigilante. But that's not fun. That's not interesting. I want a CGI raccoon having a moment of revelation.
It's just I think it's so funny that a lot of like nerds have been tweeting this if you guys have seen it, but his quote is word for word what Grant Morrison wrote back in this this old Superman comic that was adapted into a cartoon, where the bad guy is like, if you think you can stand for like hope and justice and not murder people, like it's just that. It's so fucking funny. And then he's like, you're living in a fucking dream world, and Superman's literally like, oh, yeah, I'm just gonna keep living in my dream world because that's the real world and that's the world I want to live in. And he just called it. Like Grant Morrison called it years ago. The whole crux of that book is Superman fakes, like he broadcasts him destroying Metropolis and going evil. And
that's what happened in Man of Steel.
It's what ended up happening in Man of Steel. And there's a line Superman says that says, how does it feel to be deconstructed, when he's intimidating this bad guy, showing him what it looks like when Superman goes bad. But the fucking joke is that when Superman goes bad, that is Zack Snyder's Superman. And he's unaware of the fact that he's saying this. And the dream world.
The BVS to me, it's like, it doesn't even feel sincere. That's the one thing that gets me. It doesn't even feel like storytelling.
I think that's open to like how you feel about it, I guess.
Yeah, it doesn't even like.
I see the belief in BVS, but as I said, I just don't think the way it's communicated is there. I see the passion and the belief in the story and the fact that they thought it was working. But obviously, again, that's like open to how you roll with stuff. And I guess the consensus has been overall that it's not there. So.
Yeah. And to me, like, my whole thing is that, like, again, like movies like Man of Steel and BVS, they are loud, they are dominated, like they dominate discussions, but ultimately, I just don't think they'll last. I don't think we'll really be talking about that. Like, we talk about them now, but I don't think we'll be talking about them 10 years from now. The same way that we still talk about Dark Knight, the same way I think we'll be talking about Guardians of the Galaxy 10 years from now.
We still talk about the Phantom Menace, though. So
I haven't had a proper, like, Phantom Menace. The more interesting part is the discussion around the film as opposed to the film itself. Yeah. Like, when's the last time we talked about Phantom Menace? Whereas we still talk about Star Wars.
I think
we still talk about Matrix, right?
BVS will go down in history as showing people how far you can push a character before it breaks. And I feel like
that was a breaking point.
And I feel like having that is a good thing, that now, like, okay, we know that audiences don't respond to that, so we won't do that. And that's a good thing, I guess, right?
Yeah. And I appreciate that they were making those risks, but the risks feel like they were made for the wrong reasons. And it's sort of like that idea of that, you know, storytelling is all about rules and breaking rules, and that the best storytellers know how to break those rules. But if you don't know those rules exist or just are breaking them out of spite, you're gonna make a bad movie.
But dude, Batman kills in the comics all the time. What do you fucking
like? Yeah, let's try not to straw man people like that, because it's easy to do that. Easy to come with teenage fanboy number 237. All right, are we calling it quits? Did we?
Yeah, I think we I think that's it for tonight. We'll be back pretty soon with hopefully one of us is going to organize not using Google Hangouts at some point.
Yeah, we want to try to use OBS. If anyone wants to, you know, like email the FilmHub email, I don't know who runs that, and figure out, like, give us step-by-step instructions about how to make a clean-looking stream, we'd appreciate it, because we're kind of dumbasses, but when it comes to this shit.
Yeah, we'll get onto it eventually. Anyway, how weird is it that all three of us today are like the three that have just finished working on videos?
That is true.
Yeah, all three of us. You guys dropped yours on pretty much the same day. Mine's out tomorrow, or in like 6 hours. So
if you guys haven't, go ahead.
Is it unlisted? Because I want to watch it.
Yeah, I'll send it to you guys after. You guys will get a little sneak preview.
Nice.
It hasn't been copyright claimed at the time I've been doing this fucking cast.
All right. I have a Shazam video out that you can go watch, and please fucking hit that like button, do all that stupid YouTuber shit, because that's how the algorithm picks it up. Comment Shazam, and maybe you will be granted with the powers of Shazam. At Hitop Films on Twitter. Thank you.
I just posted a video deconstructing Black Panther and its villain and a new villain archetype I thought was interesting. You can look that up on YouTube, the Films and Stuff channel. You can follow me on Twitter at JBURD22.
And I have got my video on why I love Assassin's Creed 2 coming out in a couple of hours on Loverboy Media, which you should check out and help me out, because I spent way too much time on it. And yeah, it's just go check it out. And I guess, well, I might as well announce for the FilmHub people here, my next video is on Game of Thrones, and it is out in 2 weeks. So there you go. You heard it here first. You can follow me on Twitter at Loverboy Media. And I guess we'll do another FilmHub cast sometime soon.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.